Welcome back, everyone, to the Disaster Tough podcast, where we share insights into the big plays and right calls of leadership. We dive deep into the stories, lessons learned, and ideas that will help you in the field. Let's go. Welcome back to the Disaster Tough podcast. I'm your host, John Scardena. I am so excited for this week. As you know, I've been in emergency services in some kind of way for, 20 years now. And one of those big highlights was for me was 2011 Japan, because I had lived there, and it really started helping me understand the international perspective on response and really how humanitarian organizations work out in response. And so anytime I have an opportunity to interview somebody who is doing that currently and has great stories and great insights and how that's operating now, I'm hyper curious about that. And as you're listening to here, again, try to compare not just humanitarian aid to maybe emergency management, or humanitarian aid to the fire service or police service, or working in the military, but think about how you can create interoperability between all those things, because if you do something, it affects somebody else, and that's really what we want to get to, is interoperability, next level stuff. And so today I have a great opportunity to interview the president and chief operating officer, Jerome Lebleu from CORE. He's going to be talking about all what they do and their mission. I asked him a little bit about Haiti beforehand, so I'm going to hit on Haiti because I like, all those things, all my buddies who responded with me out there. So with that, Jerome, welcome to the show.
Hey, John, thank you so much. Really excited to have this conversation.
Good. So you're branded out in your shirt. I'm branded out with my shirt. You look good. You look sharp. Tell us a little bit about CORE. It's a cool logo, by the way. I'm a logo guy, so we'll talk about that later. But tell us about your mission set of what you guys are doing at CORE.
All right. Yeah. Thank you. And hello to everybody out there who's listening. So CORE stands for Community Organized Relief Effort. We were founded in 2010 in the immediate aftermath, literally the weeks after the January 2010 earthquake that struck Haiti. We were founded by the actor Sean Penn. He basically got, after watching what was happening on CNN, packed up a plane with medical volunteers and medical supplies and flew to Haiti with, no other objective other than just providing life-saving assistance. But quickly realized, wow, the need is enormous. And also the group that was there in those first few weeks was able to carve out a niche and basically assume the responsibility, which wasn't being taken up by anybody, to manage a camp of 60,000 people who had been displaced, had lost their home. And so within a few months, he then created the nonprofit, which is CORE, to then sustain those efforts. And on we go from there.
60,000 people. What a first response to get involved with. I mean, for real. Haiti has a special place in my heart for a lot of different reasons. One of which is, and he's been on the show a couple times, his name is Joe Hernandez. I call him USAR-1. He was at Oklahoma City bombing. He was at 9/11 Twin Towers as the chief medical officer going into the hole. And in Haiti, I go out and help out with these special medical operations trainings. And he shows this picture of a grocery store, and it's just all white, just smashed, the whole deal, pancaked building. And he asked the other responders if they can pinpoint anybody in there, and they can't. And then he starts to draw this outline of a girl and I think it's her brother, and he saved both lives. He went in there, provided life-saving support. They didn't have advanced medical capability on site, so they had to use literally like I think it was like a hacksaw or a chainsaw from the store, cut off her arm, but she's alive and well. She's in the U.S. right now, and that for a responder to actually find somebody and save somebody's life is a big deal. And then my team, the National Strike Team, was out there as well. So the fact that they were doing like the tactical response, you guys were looking at 60,000 people, it just shows how big these incidents get, and how many different players are happening at the same point. The fact that you're like, your organization, whether formal or not at the time, is like, hey, let's just get stuff out there. What an introduction to the field. Since then, as CORE has developed its kind of its mission set, what are some of the things that are the same about Haiti, and then maybe what are some things that have evolved since then?
Sure, yeah, and to give a little bit more information about CORE, we've got a pretty broad mission. We're trying to empower vulnerable people who are uh, but then also beyond crisis, right? And so we we fashion ourselves and really pride ourselves actually on not so much focusing or specializing on one given thing, but really meeting the needs of the communities that we support, and doing it very quickly, right? Getting on the ground, assessing needs, and then providing relief as quickly as possible. In terms of your question, in terms of Haiti, for the first 7 years of our existence, we were just a Haiti-based organization, and we didn't expand outside of Haiti into the U.S.-based work that we now do as well until 2017. And the needs in Haiti and our work in Haiti has evolved with time. We have moved into more what I call kind of resilience building, which encompasses, a large part of emergency preparedness, you know, and we've also built a team, and our team in Haiti now is, we've got over 100 people, and they are, aside from one staff person, it is all Haitian staff. They are, professional emergency responders. So whenever, Haiti is highly, highly vulnerable to natural disasters. It's also, been in the news more recently just for general insecurity and violence. And so we deal with a lot of different hazards and risks. And we have responded, year by year to tropical storms. Another significant earthquake struck the south of the country in 2021. And our teams have been there to respond along the way, so we're doing kind of more longer term work in the education and health space, but we're also doing, able to respond and have built-in capacity to respond to different emergencies, to the point where our Haitian staff, we've deployed our Haitian colleagues to respond to disasters in the U.S. and across the Caribbean and other countries as well.
The L3 Harris Extreme 400p radio solves problems and is specifically designed for emergency services. How do we know? We field tested it with medical, urban search and rescue, and collapse and confined structures. This radio is amazingly tough. Check out the L3 Harris Extreme 400p radio at l3harris.com right now. How do you spell Doberman Emergency Management? EOP, OEP, HVA, HMP, Thyra, TTX, Drone, PDA. Whenever you need an expert, Doberman Emergency Management field experts are there for support. Contact an expert at DobermanEMG.com today.
CBRNE Convergence, the world's largest conference for the non-conventional threat, is heading back to Orlando between October 28th and 30th, 2024. With 3 days of workshops, lectures, and interactive sessions delivered by speakers from around the world on the latest issues and approaches to CBRNE and hazmat. Make sure to claim your early bird discount by registering now at cbrneworld.com/event/Orlando.
That's awesome. And what an opportunity for them too, to be able to see other types of response and learn from them as well. Every time I've gone overseas, I was just in Europe, in the UK. Funny enough, emergency management during urban warfare, as a planning, and just learning from different cultures and see how they respond and what I could take home with me, an opportunity that you guys are providing from an educational standpoint, as well as the actual supporting the response. You brought up violence and social vulnerability out there. From a 2010, where we had a ton of assets, military assets in country right after the earthquake, to 2021, where there was a major dynamic shift in the U.S. Response as well as the Haitian response. I specifically remember working with different humanitarian groups who were struggling to get resources into different areas because gang violence and controlling hospital systems and controlling routes. How does that relationship work out with you? Do you how do you process that as an organization and work in those systems when it's kind of volatile?
Yeah. Well, so first of all, and most importantly, with the utmost of care, right? And with you know, paying super close attention to the safety and security of our staff, of our partners, and making sure that we're not getting anyone in harm's way. That being said, we are operating, as you mentioned, in some challenging environments, and in order to fulfill our mission, and to get relief to those communities that need it most, oftentimes, unfortunately, that there's overlap between that vulnerability and how the levels of insecurity that are existing. And, to be honest, I go back to what I said earlier in terms of how, in describing the team. I mean, our team and our local team and a team of real seasoned, emergency responders, Haitian emergency responders, they are the key to us being able to navigate these types of situations. Any organization or any responder coming in from the outside is always going to be at a disadvantage in terms of being able to come up with solutions to those types of challenges. I would say also, in our name, right? Community organized relief effort. I mean, the reality is, the world doesn't exist as we want it to be. It exists as it is, and we need to reframe how we respond based on the situation on the ground. And a community is many things, and a community is made up of lots of people and lots of groups, and some of those groups sometimes are gangs, and they have power and they have significant ability to make decisions, and they're recognized by local people. It's not black and white, like, they're bad. Obviously they're doing some not good things, and providing access to aid is important. But what we've found is that even though they have, may have certain activities that are obviously not positive overall, they also are responding to community needs, and the community is their constituency too. And we often will allow passage of relief and aid because it is helping their community. They are of the community, and so we work, within acceptable limits, with all community actors, as long as we're fulfilling our mission, right?
I think that's a great way to look at it. There was I think it was a hurricane, and we had opened up shelter operations in Mississippi, and there was opposing gangs. And I still remember walking into the facility, the shelter, and they were intermingled, totally fine. And I asked, like, basically the rep there was like, "Hey, how did you do this?" Because all these, one, they need a place to stay. Like, ultimately, people need a place to stay. But instead of going through like all the official channels, and instead of like trying to be like hardcore law enforcement or hardcore this, they just went to the heads of the gangs and said, "You need a place to stay, make a truce, and everybody can stay in here. And we're not going to check names. We're not going to like look at, whatever, just, you know, knives and whatever at the front, people sleep in the back." And they were in there for like a week and a half, no problem, zero. And it was a great success compared to other places I've been to where they try to bring in a sheriff, or they try to bring whatever, and they try to like lay down the law, and people just fight against that. They don't. That's not how that community, reacted well to law enforcement for obvious reasons. And ultimately, we're there as humanitarians. You want to help out everybody, and hopefully, by some goodwill in the world, that reduces some tensions as well. So, obviously, there's boundaries.
Yeah,
But
we
yeah,
like to say that we really prioritize local knowledge and really listening. Core, when we respond, we're more often than not outsiders, and so we really depend on strong relationships and based on respect, mutual respect with local partner organizations, local communities, and the reality is you have to listen to the people. They know their problems better than we do. They know, and they probably have the solutions to the problems that to their own problems, right? We I like to say to people like, hey, imagine if some disaster happened in your community tomorrow, and then I showed up and started telling you how you should be organizing yourself in your response. You'd be like, what? Who are you? Right? We really try to keep that front of mind with all of our teams. And we try to kind of inculcate that in all of our deployment teams as we go out, because, people have, the solutions to their problems. They just need a little bit of support and facilitating getting whatever it is, resources, financial, in kind, capacities, et cetera, that they don't currently have access to because of the disaster.
You're blowing my mind right now. Are you saying that people know their own problems and know how to solve them?
Super simple, man.
I swear, there was a really. I'm going in tangents here, but is like pinging my brain in so many different areas. There was a great example after the 2004 Indian Ocean earthquake and tsunami. Um, the UN went in there with all these different groups, and they were trying to do essentially like PTSD support. And so they brought in all these Westerns in there, Western psychologists in there, and they're making people hug their family. They're doing like all these practices in order to like reduce stress. But there was a research group that came out of Australia, and they were there to just track recovery. They weren't there for any kind of additional support. And the way that they did it was to do qualitative interviews, basically like right after 6 months, a year, 18 months, whatever. And they found that a lot of the people that they interviewed on the videos were essentially releasing all of that stored energy for the first time. And it was really confusing them. And basically, they found by like bringing in your own culture with what you think is right and what you think is wrong versus, actually looking at people and saying, you tell me, and the which one was actually much more helpful for people to be able to recover. The people who were doing the video series, there were several countries, including Indonesia. I specifically remember they were tracking them, and they were recovering like months before everybody else. Now it wasn't the hugging, it wasn't the other stuff. Now other people are big huggers, so like whatever. But it just shows that like matching people and understanding their needs of where they're at is a really big lesson for everybody. Is like, hey, just because people have gone through the worst doesn't mean they also don't know how to get back to it just with some additional support. So great call out there. I want to ask you about your logo because I'm a logo guy. And I always pronounce this wrong. The lemicite or the lemon, the infinite symbol. The big. How do you pronounce that? I don't know. I'm a loser there. But that symbol, the infinite symbol, is curious to me. Not only for the core, but I think it has probably a lot of symbolism what you do. Can you talk about that? Do you know the background by that or?
Yeah. So, I mean, the history is, as I mentioned, we were a Haiti-based organization, right? And we had our name, we had a name change and a kind of a rebranding in 2019. So we were called JPHRO, and JP was just JP, it was names, right? But HRO, Haitian Relief Organization. And as we started branching out and working, you can imagine, we responded to Hurricane Florence in North Carolina in 2018, and I'm out talking to different community members and I'm telling them about JPHRO, and they're like, JP Haitian Relief Organization, what are you guys doing over here? So we started thinking, hey, we need to kind of change, I would say not change, but update the brand identity to reflect that we were just, more than just Haiti. And so, worked with actually a number of different firms to help us with this stuff, and until one really got it right. And in terms of first of all, the name we love, it's easy. The acronym is easy, obviously, but then the name really speaks to what we do and how we do it. And then the logo, I think, and that kind of infinity symbol is really about another thing that we really pride ourselves on, which is not being just a drop in and drop out kind of organization. So That's not to say we respond and then we're in a place forever. We don't want that mentality either. If we're really about empowering communities, we don't want to be setting ourselves up as a mainstay in a community as, coming in as an outsider, unless we're wanted, when we see and when we develop really strong partnerships with local community, local leaders, and they ask us to stay, we want to stay. We want to be a partner and accompany those communities along a path of building resilience. I think, and that's what the symbol represents. It's about not just a point in time, but about an approach that goes far beyond. And, I don't know about you. I know you've responded to a lot of emergencies. One of the things that really started to get to me after, I'd say, maybe 4 or 5 years, is you start to see patterns, right? And you see the same types of things happening, the same types of impacts you see. And I think what got to me most is I started to see that, it's consistently and in my opinion, systematically, most vulnerable communities for the disaster are the ones that are most impacted by the disaster. It's very rare that the most, well-off communities in a place are the ones that have been affected hardest. And that's intuitive sense, right? Like they have more resources at an individual and a community level to cope. So we want to, on a personal level and as a leader with CORE, I've tried with the rest of our leadership to make a commitment. We want to not just come in, provide relief, and then leave within a couple of weeks, but if we can make an investment into longer term building of resilience that helps these communities kind of, be better prepared the next time, then that is an important, I think, kind of part of our mission and kind of a side-by-side goal for the organization, right? And I think that's what the logo represents.
Yeah, like I said, I'm a big logo fan, and that's kind of your mic drop moment on the podcast, right? Like just like walking us through that explains your core values, it explains your mission statement, it explains what drives you guys, and I like doing that deep dive as well. Like if you look at either the Doberman logo or the Readiness Lab logo, both of them have like that cyclical nature in there because disasters are cyclical. The fact that, oh my gosh, you're going to make me go on a tangent here. The fact that you noticed that there are repetitive things that are happening in every single disaster type. I hate when we say every disaster is different. I feel like that just is saying that we don't have great data science. We don't have great analytics because like if you want to know where the tornado is going to go half the time and say just follow, where the trailer parks are. Like the communities that are hit the hardest definitely have a higher social vulnerability index. It's because they don't have any resources. They live in floodplains. They live in open areas. They don't have the resources or the insurances to take care of those things. And it is 100% true. There's a recurring theme here, and I should have said it earlier, but there's an amazing, amazing book called Social Vulnerability, and I brought it up a couple times on the podcast, but essentially all the data that they were looked at over like 40 years of responding to disasters internationally and in the US basically came down to is there are no new incidents from disasters. It either highlights the good or really highlights the bad, and it just gets way better or way worse depending on your social economic level, your education, a bunch of other factors. And it's incredible to hear organizations like CORE getting out there and addressing that head on. And more importantly, not just step in and step out, but really focus on getting locals the confidence, the capabilities, the needs that they need to have using local responders in Haiti, for example. That's a great way to tackle a very complex situation. So, like with that, uh, just like thank you so much for explaining that to me, and I hope that people are hearing you as you're walking through that. As we're looking at like kind of closing out this podcast, I want to give you the opportunity, just for everybody's sake. I did not paid by CORE or anything like that. Just wanted to hear from you. If somebody wanted to get involved with CORE, if they wanted to hear more about what you're doing, get involved as a volunteer and or a donating, I'm sure you guys have a donating process, how would they be able to do that?
Sure. Yeah. So, obviously our website is the best place to go. www.coreresponse.org. You'll find everything that you need there, from donating to volunteering. We have we're continuous recruitment for roster roles, internationally and domestically, and obviously that's where you can also see kind of what available jobs are open. And we have also we're on social media across all the different channels that you can imagine. And in general, it's at Core Response. We're trying to, you mentioned the local part, right? We're really trying to keep it local. We tried to structure the organization that presents some challenges, but in terms of scaling, but we've really tried to prioritize in all of our work, as soon as we get on the ground, as quickly as possible, being able to transition volunteers, local hiring, as well as local procurement, to make sure that we're investing as many of the resources that we have at our disposal into local economies as quickly as possible, when that's possible. And then, we're small, so we're not a large organization compared to some others. So we really try to be very targeted in the communities that we are working with. So, that means, really doing our homework, but relatively quickly, once we get on the ground, to listen to folks, quickly do assessments and understand where our resources can go the farthest. And even if that means going, and often it does, getting far away from where the cameras are, to communities that have been neglected and that maybe aren't getting the attention that others are. That's kind of where we end up.
I have one last question. I know I'm supposed to close this out, but I'm hyper curious. For all that you guys are doing and all that you're getting out in the field, what is your decision-making matrix to figure out what you can support and how at your level for support?
Yeah, so we get together, as a leadership team. We've got the biggest thing is, what is the scale of the disaster or the crisis? What is the and we need to answer one question more important than any others: is, can we add value? Right. So we do not want to be deploying for the sake of deploying because it's in the news. We want to be able to be sure that there's a way, once we get on the ground, either because the need is enormous and anyone needs to respond if they can, or because we have connections through our existing staff, our board, or others in our network of partners that are saying, hey, we're over here, we need your help. There's definitely people not getting served. Come this way, right? And in terms of the level of what we can commit to, then it really, I think, depends on the scale, right? So, one that was, for example, I think made a lot of international news, but then, a couple, right? Last year and in the last 18 to 24 months, there was massive flooding in Pakistan. It was about like a third of the country. It was crazy, and although that didn't get that much attention here, we're compelled, right? We have to. And then similarly, Syria, Turkey earthquake, which was massive, just last, February, right? Where, in those situations, we made a decision as an organization that, we needed to step up, right? And that kind of governs the level of investment that we make.
That's awesome. I'm going to have you come on for part 2 to talk about the Syria Turkey thing, because I've had the CEO of Brink on here talking about doing drone operations there. We have friends with NATO, NATO's being in Turkey, and the long-term impacts of that as well. And so it'd be great to pick your brain on that. I'm hyper curious, and I'm sure a lot of people are listening too. So I'm going to tell everybody to make sure you check out like coreresponse.org for sure. But at the same time, like it's fun to hear your evolution as a company since 2010 and what you guys are trying to get out to. And you use all the right words, right? Being compelled to help out. You want to do good things. You want to make sure it's valuable for people. And as a guy who's done, like I said, a few responses out in the world, as soon as the media goes away, 90% of the support goes away, and people are left to try to figure things out, and it can be really, really tough. And so the fact that you are trying to build up resilient communities, truly using that word in the right way, by the way, thank you, and trying to do some good things out there, focusing on the community. I applaud you for what you're doing, and thank you for talking to me today. Thanks so much.
Thanks a lot, John. I mean, this was a lot of fun. I would love to come back on, and I'd love to also tell you about some of the other stuff we're doing, because we're small and obviously that limits our scale, but we've been trying to invest in some different tools, technologies that we think hopefully can, be used by smaller organizations, and, not just of our size, but much smaller as well, community-based organizations, to help coordinate emergency response kind of at the very local level. We think we can create some real efficiencies and make the whole experience better for everybody, and most importantly, survivors.
That's the right answer. The guy, the mic drop moment guy. That's what we're going to start calling you. But Jerome, thanks again for talking to me and for coming on. For everybody who's listening in, again, I'll put it in the show notes, but make sure you check out coreresponse.org. Get not paid for them, just hyper curious about them. And I would implore you to check them out as well. If you got something out of this episode, which you should have, you got to give us that 5-star rating and subscribe. If you're doing something like in Haiti, or you're hyper curious about what they're doing and you want to put it on social media, tag them, tag us, the whole deal. If you have a question for Jerome specifically that you want to email us, you can email us at contact@thereadinesslab.com. We'll forward on to Jerome and his team, and we'll see you for the next one. Peace.